stories from the Atlas Comics library. Free Comic Book Day, Saturday, May 4th, 2024, at your local comic shop. Greetings, fiends. Today I'd like to bring something to your attention that every pre-code horror comic book fan will want to check out. And guess what? It's absolutely free. That's right. It is Free Comic Book Day that is coming up this Saturday, May 4th, 2024, at your local comic shop. And guess what? They have issue number 1 of stories from the Atlas Comics library. Fantagraphics, as you may know, has partnered with Marvel Comics to reprint many Atlas pre-code horror comic book titles. This is the first issue of the Free Comic Book series. As you see on the screen, I am currently at the freecomicbookday.com website. We are looking at issue 1 here, as it says, with artists including Joe Maneely, Basil Wolverton, Gene Colan, Russ Heath, and Bill Everett. But before going any further, let me tell you about my new book. It's called Pre-Code Horror Comics, the Original Art Edition. It is a large format art book, 126 pages, 12 full-length original art stories from the pre-code horror era, plus dozens of preliminary art covers for comic books, original art covers, and the final published covers to some of the most memorable pre-code comic book covers ever published. Many of these have never even been in print before, folks. And I've also thrown in a few unpublished covers that may surprise you. So that is my new book, Pre-Code Horror Comics, the Original Art Edition. You can pick it up on my website, ghostclinic.com, or you can go to eBay and buy it from there. The links are in the description. Issue number 1, Stories from the Atlas Comics Library, the ultimate Marvel team-up. Fantagraphics' new Atlas Library collaboration with Marvel, presenting classic comics from the pre-Marvel Atlas era, began in the fall of 2023 and continues in 2024, as evidenced in this 32-page showcase of primo pre-code gems from the House of Ideas. Included stories represent a range of genres from the series, including Adventures into Terror and Venus. Included are Stan Lee and Joe Maneely's satire on anti-comics crusader Frederick Wortham with The Raving Maniac. And here is the issue of Suspense, number 29 from Atlas. On the left, you can see there is a story called The Raving Maniac, and that is the story that is in this Free Comic Book Day issue. Check out this splash page for The Raving Maniac. Of course, the art is by Joe Maneely. This is written by Stan Lee, and it's a straight-up bashing satire of Frederick Wortham. Great story. It's hilarious. I highly recommend it. A tale to hold you in suspense. Next up, we have Gene Colan's horror story, The Clock Strikes, followed by Basil Wolverton's horror story, Where Monsters Dwell. Now here's the splash page to Where Monsters Dwell, rendered by the fabulous Basil Wolverton. As it says, "Are there some things which men should never know?" Nice panel by Wolverton. This story also appears in an early 90s pre-code reprint from Marvel called Curse of the Weird, of which 4 issues came out. It was a limited series. I highly recommend it. I did a video on those that you can find on my channel. After that, we have Joe Maneely's gritty war story, Rain. Then Maneely's Hank Ketchum parody, Pascal the Rascal. Finally, we have Bill Everett's romantic horror story, The Kiss of Death, starring Atlas heroine Venus. Venus, Strange Stories of the Supernatural. The Kiss of Death. the most terrifying horror that ever existed. Here is the splash page for The Kiss of Death. 3 men were lucky. They only died. But poor old Andreas was trapped for eternity in the kiss of death. 2 skeletons duking it out. Nice panel. And all of these stories are in issue number 1 of Stories from the Atlas Comics Library that you can get at your local comic book shop this Saturday, May 4th, for free. It's a great deal, folks. This is what I believe to be the first ever pre-code horror comic book ever offered for Free Comic Book Day. Fantagraphics began this partnership with Marvel back in October of 2023 with the Atlas Comics Library number 1, and this is Adventures into Terror Volume 1, which reprints the first 8 issues of that title. So this Free Comics Day giveaway is a great advertisement for what Fantagraphics plans on reprinting in 2024 and probably 2025 at least in the Atlas Pre-Code Horror Comics series. So that concludes this humble PSA from your pal, Horror Mike, and I'll see you live Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Horror Mike Show.